Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Today, we are going to take a look at the wide world of tropics, starting off, as we typically do, with every tropical weather outlook here in the tropical weather bulletin from the National Hurricane Center. Really quickly before we get to the Pacific, just want to show you nothing is expected right now from the National Hurricane Center in the next 7 days, but in the Pacific, we have an area of interest there. The Pacific is showing signs of life here, and they've kind of been teasing us for the past several days, and again, the Pacific is going to get more gradually active here in the coming weeks, and it looks like it's already starting here with this area of interest. 80% chance of development, so very high likelihood that this is going to likely develop here in the coming week into a tropical system. Tropical depression is likely to form by the early to middle part of next week while the waves here, so this appears to be a tropical wave, and again, just proof that these tropical waves that come out from Africa and the Atlantic, even if they don't develop in the Atlantic, especially the eastern part of the Atlantic, sometimes these tropical waves will persist all the way until they can find favorable conditions enough so that they can develop, whether that be sometimes in the western Atlantic, in the Gulf, off the southeast coast, in the Caribbean, or in this case here, in the eastern Pacific. And this is definitely going to be a case that we will see quite a bit throughout the hurricane season this year, especially with the Pacific. Here's a satellite shot of how the Atlantic and the Pacific are looking like right now. Nothing much is happening on the Atlantic side. We still have a few tropical waves churning out here, likely one in the Western Caribbean. Looks like there's one in the Eastern Caribbean here, or Western MDR. Maybe there's also one probably in the Eastern Caribbean as well. And, definitely one here in the Western MDR. And then you could see where we have our tropical wave here in the Eastern Pacific, and this is likely the area that we're going to have to watch for development in the next week. And it's already producing a decent amount of shower and thunderstorm activity. Definitely has the look of a buff wave that is ready to sprout into a tropical system. And taking a look at the vorticity signature right now across the Atlantic and the Pacific, you can see here in the Eastern Pacific, we have a decent amount of vorticity. Obviously, it is very disorganized right now. We still don't really have a defined, trough or low-level vortex with this wave just yet. It's still going to take a few days to develop here in the Pacific, but you can definitely see where we have energy associated with the tropical wave right now. And we also see more energy here associated with our other tropical waves. Definitely some energy here in the Western Caribbean, and then you also see some energy as well in the MDR as we have these tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa there, and then moving westward as we typically see in the early season. And then we also see some energy here off the southeast coast, and as I mentioned in yesterday's video, the southeast coast, the Gulf, and in general closer to home, I think will be where we need to start watching more closely here in the next coming 1 to 2 weeks as we head into early July, as maybe something might try to happen here eventually. The models are all over the place right now, and I'll show you the GFS in a little bit and see what they show today, but just keep in mind about our next threat here in the Atlantic might be off the southeast coast. So we'll talk about that more later on. Let's move on to sea surface temperature anomalies, though. Right now, taking a look at how things are looking like on a more general basis across the Atlantic and the Pacific right now, and obviously in the Pacific here, lots of bright oranges and reds as El Nino continues to develop, and we are knocking on the door now already of a strong El Nino sea surface temperature anomaly-wise, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. The Atlantic, though, is also decently warm, though, I must say. Throughout, first of all, off the southeast coast and in the Bahamas, we have sea surface temperature anomalies 1 to even 2 degrees Celsius above normal in a few spots, especially near Florida here. So definitely more than enough warmth needed for development, especially off the southeast coast. And so, again, an area that we're going to watch here in the coming weeks. But also, notice here in the eastern Atlantic, especially off the northwestern coast of Africa, near the Canary Current and near the Iberian Peninsula, that area that I always watch for in particular when it comes to how sea surface temperatures pan out in the Atlantic. That's, interestingly enough, gotten decently warm in the last few weeks here. And so we'll monitor and see whether or not that starts to change the configuration of the sea surface temperature anomaly pattern in the Atlantic a little bit. But overall, the Atlantic is decently warm. Some actually pretty decently warm anomalies beginning to show up here off the coast of Africa. So the Atlantic is not doing terribly right now, but obviously will definitely be overpowered by all the warmth we have here in the Pacific, and definitely a lot of warmth available for whatever AOI here that tries to develop. And again, going back to the Pacific, Nino 3.4 sea surface temperature anomalies, 1.6 degrees Celsius is the latest daily value there right now. So pretty much already above strong El Nino threshold. And it's, again, still only late June. Quite incredible, to be honest with you. But we were all expecting a very strong El Nino, even a super El Nino this year. I guess this was the result. I mean, we should have expected this, right? All the models were hinting at incredibly strong El Nino this year. And so perfectly makes sense as to why, we're already seeing anomalies this warm, even though it is only June. The MDR, though, as I said, slowly recovering. Sea surface temperature anomalies, at least in the tropical part of the MDR, the overall MDR as a whole. So pretty much the general deep tropics of the Atlantic right now, hovering near normal. Latest values at negative 0.000 or 0.003. So, I guess slightly below normal. It doesn't really look that below normal when you average everything out here. I guess, though, in the end, it kind of averages out to like barely at normal. Although it's, again, still not bad. It's definitely recovering from being well below normal like we saw, in late June. And I'd imagine here in the next few weeks, as we progress into summer, things are only going to continue to get warmer here in the MDR and in the Atlantic as the weeks and months go by, and as things are yet to come here. The actual sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, and we'll take a look at the Pacific too in a little bit. Well, the Atlantic is definitely very warm. As I mentioned, we definitely have some very warm sea surface temperature anomalies here in the southwestern Atlantic, especially off the southeast coast, where we are going to be watching here over the next few weeks. So ample warmth, more than enough so that we need in order to, say that conditions will definitely be favorable enough for whatever does try to develop here off the southeast coast. Pretty much extending all the way out from the Bahamas here, sea surface temperature anomalies, 28, 29 degrees Celsius, 30s and 31s showing up in the Bahamas and off the coast of Florida here and in the Keys as well. That's definitely very warm. And then widespread anomalies throughout the Gulf here, also very, very warm as well, 28 and 29. So the Western Atlantic and closer to home is very warm right now. The typical areas that we once again watch for in the early season during the hurricane season here. So definitely very interesting indeed. The Eastern Pacific, on the other hand, continuously remains very, very warm, especially throughout pretty much the entirety of the tropical Pacific, especially off the Mexican coast here, 30s to even 31s, and then 30s stretching back for pretty much a majority of the Eastern Pacific, especially the tropics. And you bet that this is going to help fuel lots of tropical development this year. And speaking of development in the Eastern Pacific, let's take a look at the GFS model and see what's expected here in the next week. And taking it out over the next 7 days, you could see we have a development here probably associated with the AOI that the National Hurricane Center has there right now. Takes a few days to develop, but looks like probably around hour 96 or so. So roughly once we get to the end of this weekend into Monday, we start seeing development. Maybe this is a tropical storm by now, and then I guess it tries to strengthen a little bit here, although it moves on out to sea and probably will die off as it moves on off to the northwest and as we get towards cooler waters. And the waters are still cooler as we get further north and west here in the Pacific. They may be above normal, well above normal, but the Eastern Pacific warm waters here don't really extend as far north, especially like the Atlantic does, where we're able to have sea surface temperatures stretch all the way up the East Coast here because with the help of the Gulf Stream. But definitely warm sea surface temperatures will help aid in development here. Probably going to get yet another named storm within the next week in the Eastern Pacific here, and then obviously we will see whether or not we get more development beyond that, especially as we get into July. As I've been saying, things are probably going to start getting pretty active here in the Pacific. On to the Atlantic over the next 7 days. On the meanwhile, things remain pretty quiet. Looks like the GFS is not really showing a signal off the southeast coast here like it was yesterday in terms of a front moving off here and some piece of energy trying to break off. Looks like, I guess it does happen here somewhat on the model, but I guess it dies off. Maybe the atmosphere is not really favorable. Interestingly enough, though, at 7 days, that's definitely the hint of a pretty aggressive tropical wave here that moves off the coast of Africa. And we've been having these aggressive tropical waves, which have been continuously moving off here in the last several weeks. The wave train this year in the Atlantic has been pretty aggressive. Obviously, though, nothing is really taking advantage of any favorable conditions, though, because right now in the Atlantic, there pretty much are none, and that is to be expected given the fact that we have a El Nino in place for this year, and those El Nino conditions are more than likely only going to continue to strengthen as the months go by. But I'm pretty sure at some point, even if we have an El Nino year this year, something almost always happens in the Atlantic no matter what, so I'm pretty sure at some point we will see development in the MDR. But it looks like right now, at least over the next week, nothing yet to be worried about in the Atlantic. But obviously, again, we will be watching off the southeast coast. But with that being said, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Looks like there's not much else to talk about beyond what we've mentioned today. So we're going to end it off here. I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week as the week is coming to a close here. Got today, which is Thursday, and then tomorrow, Friday, end of the work week for most. So, just one more day here before we close out the week and get into the weekend. And of course, I'll be back with another update tomorrow. And if you want to continue to stay tuned for these tropical updates, which again are going to be coming on a daily basis here pretty much throughout the rest of the season, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like and comment as well to boost the algorithm of this video and hopefully boost the algorithm of my channel. So hopefully more people can discover these videos as well. Stay safe, especially in the times we live in right now, and given situations that have happened here in the last 24 hours, especially in Venezuela. Just really quickly want to sign off. Well, before I sign off, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to everyone in Venezuela right now after they dealt with the devastating earthquakes yesterday. Unfortunately, we are probably going to see a very, very high death toll. So I'm sending my thoughts, my best wishes, and my prayers to everyone there. And hope we could have a speedy recovery, and I hope everyone else stays safe. Enjoy the time you have, especially with all your loved ones. Peace, love, and kindness to all of you. And again, I'll be back with more tomorrow.